beyond the veil of what was known, beyond the galaxies, beyond the war. He saw flickers of something else, things that should not be. Titanic forms, shifting in the void, their presence so vast that the human mind could not contain their scale. Armadas of long-dead civilizations, locked in battles that had never truly ended. Beings of pure energy, frozen in the moments before their destruction, and behind them all, looming, waiting. Something older than time itself. Something that had been sleeping, until now. Cade gasped, snapping back to reality. His chest heaved, his body shaking. He had only glimpsed it, but it was enough. Enough to understand. Dr. Voss clutched his arm, her face pale. Cade, we didn't just wake up the station. We woke up everything. The core pulsed, brighter, faster. The intelligence that had been sealed away for eons was now fully aware. And somewhere, out there in the endless dark, others were waking too. The voice surged into their minds once more. You have called the forgotten. Now they will answer. A sound unlike anything ever heard before resonated through the chamber. Oh, deep cosmic vibration, as if the station itself was preparing to move. Voss turned to the alien leader. You knew this could happen. The being did not deny it. His hands clenched at his sides. I knew the risk. I did not know if it was truth or legend. His gaze darkened. Now I do. The station trembled again. But this time, it was not from an external force. Something within was activating. Energy pulsed outward, extending past the station, past the remnants of the battle, past even the edges of the known star systems, and across the cosmos. Something answered. The Dominion fleet was vanishing into hyperspace, desperate to escape. But they would not outrun what had begun here today. Cade swallowed hard. We need to leave. The luminous being turned to him. You do not understand. There is nowhere to go. Outside the station, the fabric of space itself rippled. And for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy shuddered under the weight of something returning from the depths of time. Cade's breath hitched. He could feel it. Something pressing against the edges of his mind. Not words, not thoughts, but an awareness, an intelligence. Voss staggered backward. It's thinking. Holt gritted his teeth. What the hell did we just activate? The luminous being's gaze remained locked on the pulsing core. His voice was almost reverent. The last mind of the forgotten. Then, in a single instant, reality twisted. Cade's vision blurred. The chamber around them expanded, not physically but conceptually. He saw images, impossible and overwhelming, flashing through his consciousness. Star systems rising and collapsing. Wars fought on scales beyond reckoning. Creatures of light and shadow battling across dimensions. And then, an ancient voice, neither spoken nor heard, but felt. You are not meant to be here. Cade gasped, clutching his head. He wasn't alone. The others were experiencing it too. Voss's voice was barely audible. It's testing us. The Dominion's dreadnought fired. A superheated beam of annihilation, enough to shatter moons, tore through space toward the station. The intelligence reacted. Without warning, the station's structure shifted. Reality itself twisted. The weapon's energy didn't strike. It disappeared. Swallowed. Redirected. Unmade. The Dominion fleet reeled. Their greatest weapon had been erased. Holt's eyes widened. What just happened? The station pulsed, and then across the entire sector, the voice echoed. Not just to them, but to the entire Dominion fleet. Leave this place. Ships buckled, systems failed. A pulse of energy rippled outward, sending shockwaves through space itself. The Dominion was retreating, not in confusion, not in disarray, but in pure, unrelenting terror. Cade barely had time to breathe before the luminous being turned to him. You have done what they feared. You have awakened the last fragment of the greatest war ever fought. The station trembled again. Not from an attack, but from something else. Something responding. And far beyond the edges of known space, something old stirred. The moment the containment field shattered, the universe itself seemed to shudder. Cade felt it, not just in his bones, but in something deeper, more fundamental. A force neither seen nor fully understood surged outward, filling every inch of the ancient station with a presence far older than anything humanity had ever encountered. A single moment of silence stretched into eternity. Then, the station woke up. Light cascaded through the walls, running in intricate, liquid-like patterns across the ancient structure. Symbols reconfigured themselves, their meanings shifting too fast for the human eye to comprehend. The very air felt charged, humming with an energy that pressed against Cade's mind, whispering thoughts too vast to fully grasp. And then, the voice spoke again, not in words, not in sound, but in meaning. It bypassed language, bypassed the barriers of thought itself, implanting pure knowledge into those present. You have torn open the veil. Cade staggered back, his breath hitching. The force behind the words was immeasurable. It was as if a mountain had spoken, as if an ocean had turned sentient. It was not a single being. It was something more, something collective. Dr. Voss pressed her hands against her temples, gasping. It's a Gestalt intelligence. Not one entity, but millions, billions. The remnants of something ancient, something we were never meant to touch. The luminous-skinned, alien leader had fallen to one knee, his gaze locked onto the pulsing core at the heart of the chamber. For the first time, there was something in his expression that Cade had not seen before. Terror. The station trembled. Outside, the Dominion fleet was in chaos. Their dreadnought's superweapon, designed to erase entire worlds, had been swallowed. It had not exploded, had not been deflected. It had simply ceased to exist, and the fleet commanders knew. They were no longer in control of this battle. Across the vastness of space, the ripple of what had been awakened was already spreading. Dominion warships turned in unison, their engines flaring as they attempted to flee. Even the most fanatical of their commanders now understood. This was no longer a war. This was survival. Holt clenched his fists. They're running. Cade didn't respond. His eyes were still locked onto the chamber, onto the pulsing core, onto the thing that had just returned. The luminous being finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. You do not understand what you have done. Cade turned to him sharply. We stopped the Dominion. We did what was necessary. The being's gaze burned into him. You think this is victory? And then the walls shifted. Reality twisted, and for a single horrifying moment, Cade saw beyond. The luminous leader murmured something in his own tongue, a whisper like starlight scraping against metal. Then he turned to Cade. You wish to fight the Dominion, human? Then stand witness to what was left behind. A deep, resonant pulse vibrated through the station's foundations. The floor beneath them split open, revealing a descending platform bathed in an eerie golden glow. It was not machinery in the way Cade understood it. The material was smooth, seamless, humming with an energy that defied classification. Voss inhaled sharply. This isn't just a weapon. It's something alive. Holt's voice was grim. And we're about to wake it up. The countdown ticked lower. Cade didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the platform, motioning for the others to follow. The luminous being joined him, as did Voss and Holt. The avian alien gave a resigned click. Before hopping on, the platform descended. As it did, the chamber around them shifted. Walls expanded, light flowed like liquid, revealing engravings too precise to have been carved by mortal hands. Glyphs stretched across the surfaces. Stories, written in a language lost to time. Voss barely breathed. I wish I had months to study this. You have seconds, Holt muttered. Then the platform stopped. They stood at the threshold of a vast, circular chamber. In the center, suspended in a field of shimmering energy, was a structure unlike anything Cade had ever seen. It was neither entirely organic nor mechanical. It pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm, alive yet dormant. Waiting. Voss's voice was barely above a whisper. This is it. The luminous being stepped forward, his expression unreadable. This was the weapon they built, the weapon they refused to use. Cade's heart pounded. Then why did they leave it here? The being turned to face him, and for the first time, there was something in his gaze beyond wisdom. There was sorrow. Because some weapons should never be unleashed. Above them, the countdown reached 30 seconds. The Dominion was about to fire. Cade clenched his fists. We don't have a choice. The air inside the chamber felt charged, thick with something neither wholly physical nor entirely abstract. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been stretched thin here, woven into something ancient and unknowable. The structure at the center of the room pulsed again. Slow, deliberate, waiting. Cade stepped forward cautiously, his boots making no sound against the smooth surface of the platform. The others followed, their expressions ranging from awe to dread. The Dominion's countdown was in its final moments, and above them the station's sensors would already be screaming with proximity alerts. Dr. Voss barely glanced at her datapad. Her mind was already racing ahead, deciphering symbols that had not been read in millennia. This isn't just a power source, it's a containment field. Cade's fingers curled into fists. Containing what? She swallowed hard. A fragment of something vast, something beyond what we understand. The luminous-skinned alien leader let out a slow breath. It is the last remnant of the ones who came before. Cade turned sharply toward him. You mean the civilization that built this station? The being's shimmering gaze didn't waver. No, the ones that came before them. A shiver crawled down Cade's spine. Lieutenant Holt exhaled sharply. I don't like the sound of that. Outside, the station trembled. The Dominion's superweapon was about to fire. The battle raging beyond was nearing its final moment. Cade turned back to the pulsing structure. We don't have time for this. Can it stop the Dominion fleet or not? The luminous being hesitated. Then, without a word, he stepped forward and raised both hands. A low, resonant hum filled the chamber as energy rippled through the air. The containment field began to shift, fracturing in slow, deliberate cracks of golden light. Voss's breath caught in her throat. Wait, if it's been locked away, what happens when we release it? The alien leader's expression darkened. I do not know. Cade's jaw tightened. The choice before him was no longer just about survival. It was about what they might unleash in the process. The station trembled again. The Dominion's dreadnought was ready to fire. No more time. Cade clenched his fists. Do it. The luminous being lowered his hands. The containment field shattered. A blinding surge of light erupted from the structure, cascading outward in ribbons of liquid energy. The chamber was consumed in a pulse of raw, unfiltered power. Power that had been held at bay for thousands of years. And then the station woke up. Every console, every system, every dormant circuit deep within its core surged to life as something vast and immeasurable spread through its ancient pathways. The glyphs lining the chamber walls glowed brighter, rearranging themselves in real time as new pathways of energy ignited across the station's framework. Cade turned to face him. And yet, here we are. A pause. Then the being inclined its head. Indeed. A low rumble vibrated through the floor. The station groaned, metal shifting under unseen forces. Then, a new projection flickered to life beside the Leviathan's image. A countdown. Voss's fingers froze. They're charging weapons. Cade felt a slow, controlled breath leave his body. The Dominion never fired warning shots. This wasn't intimidation. It was an execution. They're giving us a chance to surrender, Holt muttered, his voice dripping with distaste. Cade's lips curled in something that wasn't quite a smile. No, Lieutenant. They're giving us time to say our prayers. The luminous leader stepped forward, eyes gleaming like twin stars. Your species is different. You believe yourselves indomitable. Cade's expression hardened. Are we wrong? The being regarded him for a moment, then turned to the gathered aliens. For millennia, our worlds have endured beneath the Dominion's boot. Every rebellion crushed, every spark of defiance extinguished. We learned to survive by hiding, by submitting. Cade's voice was iron. That's not survival. Silence. Then, with deliberate slowness, the luminous being raised a hand. The air shimmered, and an unseen force rippled through the station. The projection of the countdown expanded, revealing a secondary layer of information beneath the Dominion's display. A secondary energy signature. Voss inhaled sharply. There's something else here. Something below us. The luminous being's voice was almost reverent. The last remnants of a war fought before time was recorded. A weapon never fired. Holt's eyes narrowed. A weapon! The reptilian alien hissed, stepping forward. Not a weapon. A reckoning. Cade's pulse quickened. Can we use it? The luminous being exhaled. That is the question. A low vibration rippled through the station. The Dominion's countdown continued. Voss's fingers flew across her datapad. The power source is buried deep. I can try to reroute energy, but I need... The lights flickered. For a fraction of a second, the entire station seemed to pulse. A vast, unseen presence stirred beneath them. Something old. Something waiting. Cade turned to the luminous being. Tell me what I need to do. The being met his gaze, and for the first time, there was something in its expression beyond detachment. Hope. The station pulsed again. Not from an explosion, not from the Dominion's weapons charging outside, but from something deeper. An awakening. Cade felt it before he understood it. A shift in the air. A presence that had been slumbering for untold millennia now stirring beneath them. The floor vibrated with a slow, rhythmic pulse, like the heartbeat of a colossus. Lieutenant Holt adjusted his stance, gripping his rifle tighter as his eyes darted around. Tell me that was just a systems check. Dr. Voss barely heard him. Her focus was locked on the rapidly shifting displays on her datapad. I don't think this station is just a station. Her fingers flickered across the interface, decoding ancient glyphs at a speed that shouldn't have been possible. The luminous-skinned leader of the gathered alien refugees stepped forward, his eyes shimmering like distant quasars. You awaken something that has slept through ages of silence. Cade turned to him, his voice edged with urgency. Then help us. You said this station belonged to a civilization that defied the Dominion before the stars had names. They left something behind. Something they didn't use. Why? The luminous being studied him for a long moment before finally speaking. Because they feared it. The words sent a ripple of unease through the room. Dr. Voss exhaled sharply. We don't have the luxury of fear right now. She turned her screen toward Cade, displaying a schematic of the station's lower levels. I found it. There's a buried system beneath us, deeper than the station's main core. It's not just a power source. It's something else. Cade's eyes flicked to the countdown still ticking on the main holodisplay. Less than 3 minutes left before the Dominion's Leviathan-class dreadnought fired its first shot. Holt scowled. Whatever it is, we're out of time. Cade turned back to the luminous being. Is there a way to activate it? The being hesitated. Then, with deliberate slowness, it reached out and pressed a hand against the control panel. The station groaned in response, ancient systems humming to life as dormant pathways reconnected. A deep, resonant chime echoed through the chamber. The air thickened. Not physically, but perceptibly. Like the moment before a storm breaks, when the sky holds its breath. The avian alien, perched on a nearby console, ruffled its feathers and whistled uneasily. Whatever happens next, it will not be subtle. Cade snapped into action. Mira, how fast can we get out of here? Dr. Voss's fingers danced over her datapad, linking directly to the Eidolon's onboard systems. The station's ancient network was vast, but it wasn't built for speed. It operated on principles that defied traditional computation. We can leave, she said, but we might not want to. Cade turned sharply. Excuse me? The leader of the gathered aliens, the luminous-skinned being who had first addressed them, stepped forward. Running will not save you. The Dominion has already marked your ship. If you leave this system without understanding what you face, Earth will burn before you make it home. A heavy silence followed. Then, without another word, the being raised a hand. The air around them shimmered, and a new projection flickered to life in the center of the chamber. It was a Dominion warship. Not just any warship. A Leviathan-class dreadnought. Cade felt his stomach drop. The image spun slowly, revealing an armored hull bristling with weapon emplacements, reinforced by an energy lattice so dense that even a full fleet assault would struggle to breach it. But it wasn't the raw firepower that unsettled him. It was the fact that there was only one ship. He'd seen Dominion fleet movements before, never firsthand, but through declassified military reports. They didn't send single warships unless the outcome was predetermined. If one of their Leviathans was here, it meant they had already accounted for every variable, which meant they weren't just here to investigate. They were here to eliminate. Voss exhaled, staring at the projection. They knew we'd come. The avian-like alien let out a low, almost mournful whistle. No. They assumed no one would dare. The luminous leader motioned, and the projection expanded to show the surrounding system. It was empty. No reinforcements. No fleet waiting to engage. Just the Leviathan, a silent executioner. Cade clenched his fists. Why only one ship? The reptilian alien's scaled face twisted into something resembling a smirk. Because they do not believe you are a threat. And if they are right, then you are already dead. A flicker of defiance sparked in Cade's chest. The Dominion's confidence was absolute. Their reach, undeniable. Their war machine, unstoppable. Unless they were wrong. He turned to his crew. Options. Voss was already working. The station has defenses, but they're inactive. If we can interface with the control systems, we might be able to reactivate them. Lieutenant Holt shifted his weight, checking his weapon as if it would do anything against what was outside. And if we can't? The avian alien ruffled its sleek black feathers. Then you will understand why the Dominion has ruled unchallenged for 1,000 cycles. Cade looked back at the luminous leader. You said we were different, that we could do what others couldn't. The being regarded him carefully. The question is not whether you can. It is whether you will. Cade exhaled. If they ran, the Dominion would follow. If they fought, they would likely lose. But if they did nothing, then they were already conquered. A decision had to be made, and time was running out. Cade's mind raced, calculations flashing through his thoughts like gunfire in a darkened corridor. The Dominion's Leviathan-class dreadnought loomed outside. The station, its presence a declaration rather than a threat. A lone executioner sent to erase any sign of rebellion before it could begin. No reinforcements. No escape routes. The Dominion was so confident in its supremacy that it hadn't even considered the need for backup. Cade intended to make them regret that. He turned toward Dr. Voss, who was still immersed in her datapad, her fingers flickering, across the interface as she tore through the station's ancient systems. Can you get the defenses online? She let out a sharp breath, shaking her head. The station's power grid is operational, but these systems, they're unlike anything I've seen before. The architecture isn't just alien, it's something else entirely. I need time. They didn't have time. Lieutenant Holt tightened his grip on his rifle, his jaw set in a grim line. If that ship decides to fire, this station is done for. The bold avian alien perched on the edge of the control console let out a low whistle. Correction. If they decide to fire, you are done for. This station will endure. You are the anomaly here. Cade barely acknowledged the remark. What about weapons? Does the station have any offensive capabilities? Voss's gaze flickered over the ancient display. Possibly. There are residual energy signatures. Old, but strong. If we can bring the main reactor fully online, I might be able to interface with whatever's left of the weapon systems. The luminous-skinned leader of the gathered aliens studied them in silence before speaking. This station was built by a civilization that challenged the Dominion before the stars had names. Its defenses were never meant to be used by outsiders. The air inside the station was breathable, though carrying an unfamiliar crispness. As Cade and his team stepped onto the metallic floor, their footsteps echoed strangely, as if the space around them was far larger than it appeared. The hangar was empty, no ships, no personnel, only towering archways that stretched into corridors of unknown purpose. Then, movement. From the far end of the hall, figures emerged. They were not Dominion soldiers. Cade counted at least 7 distinct species approaching, each humanoid, yet vastly different. A tall, avian-like being with sleek black feathers and piercing silver eyes moved with graceful precision. Beside it, a reptilian figure with deep green scales and an elongated snout exhaled softly, studying the humans with cold intelligence. A third, cloaked in what seemed to be woven strands of light, drifted forward, its body shifting like liquid under the fabric. The central figure, a broad-shouldered being with luminous skin and an intricate metallic crest on its forehead, spoke first, in perfect English. "You came. That is good." Cade exchanged a glance with Dr. Voss before stepping forward. "Who are you?" The being's expression was unreadable, but its voice carried an air of authority. "We are what remains of the true Galactic Alliance, and we do not have much time." The words sent a ripple of tension through the human crew. Dr. Voss's mind raced. "You called us here. Why now?" A low murmur passed through the assembled aliens. Then, the avian-like being spoke, its voice layered, almost melodic. "Because the Dominion will strike soon. They know of your world, and they will not let it remain independent for long." A heavy silence fell over the group. The luminous-skinned leader gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the air between them. What it revealed sent a chill through Cade's spine. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, showing vast regions marked in crimson, Dominion-controlled territory. But as the image zoomed in, smaller regions, marked in deep blue, flickered, in and out of visibility. These were remnants of the old alliance, hidden factions that had been resisting in secret. "For over 1,000 cycles, the Dominion has ruled through deception and conquest," the leader continued. "But their power is not absolute. A silent war has been waged beneath the surface of their empire. And now, with your species entering the interstellar stage, you are a variable they did not anticipate." Dr. Voss narrowed her eyes. "A war fought in the shadows. Then why not strike openly? Why not bring them down together?" The reptilian alien stepped forward, its voice carrying a deep, gravelly timbre. "Because the Dominion does not fight wars in the way you understand. They infiltrate. They erode from within. They do not attack civilizations. They consume them before they realize they've already lost." Cade clenched his jaw. It wasn't just a war. It was a war of manipulation, of control so absolute that by the time a species realized they were enslaved, it was already too late. And Earth was next. The avian-like aliens studied them carefully. "Humanity is different. You have not yet been assimilated into their hierarchy, and your civilization is unpredictable in ways the Dominion fears." Cade folded his arms. "And what makes us so special?" The leader's gaze locked onto him, its glowing eyes unreadable. "You are adaptable. Your minds function outside their predictive models. Where other species become stagnant, you evolve. And more importantly," the holographic display shifted, showing a series of Dominion-controlled planets. Each one displayed a common trait: societies that had reached a peak, then plateaued, technologies that had been stagnant for millennia, populations that had stopped innovating. Dr. Voss gasped. "They control progress." The leader nodded. "They allow civilizations to grow only to the point where they remain useful, but never beyond their reach. Your kind, however, does not stop. It pushes, it fights, it questions, and that is what they fear most." For a long moment, no one spoke. Lieutenant Holt broke the silence. "So you brought us here because you think we can stop them?" The luminous leader's expression darkened. "We brought you here because the Dominion already knows of you, and they have no intention of letting you remain free." A deep, reverberating hum filled the station. The holographic map flickered, and suddenly a red alert flashed across the display. The Dominion had arrived. A warning klaxon echoed through the station, its tone low and ominous. The assembled figures turned as one toward the holographic display, where a crimson wave spread like a living entity across the galactic map. Cade's breath hitched as the system's outer perimeter flared red. Multiple ships had just dropped out of FTL, The Dominion had found them. The signal came at 0237 Universal Time, originating from a sector of space that shouldn't have been transmitting anything. A tight beam transmission, heavily encrypted, aimed directly at Earth's deep space listening posts. The data was scrambled, beyond conventional decryption. But one thing was clear. This was not a random cosmic phenomenon. Someone, or something, had sent it deliberately. Dr. Mira Voss, one of Earth's foremost xenolinguists, was called in before the sun had even risen over the Atlantic. Sitting in a classified research facility deep within the Arctic, she stared at the repeating fragments of the message. There was a pattern, something familiar, yet utterly alien. It wasn't just a message, it was an invitation. Earth must come, the time is short, the war will decide everything. The coordinates provided led to an uncharted pocket of space, far beyond known trade routes. It was close to Dominion-controlled regions, an empire of overwhelming military might that had ruled over dozens of species for millennia. The Dominion did not negotiate, did not tolerate interference. If this message had anything to do with them, then Earth was already in danger. The United Earth government was split. Some saw this as an opportunity, perhaps even a warning from a hidden ally. Others feared it was a trap designed to lure humanity into a war they had no chance of surviving. But one thing was certain. Ignorance would not protect them. A decision was made. A covert expedition would be sent to investigate. The crew and their mission captain Elias Cade, a decorated officer known for his tactical mind and deep space survival skills, was chosen to lead the mission. The rest of the crew was handpicked from Earth's best: scientists, military strategists, and intelligence officers. Among them, Dr. Mira Voss, whose expertise in alien languages would be crucial. Their vessel, the Eidolon, was a state-of-the-art reconnaissance ship with advanced stealth capabilities. Unlike Earth's military warships, the Eidolon was designed to observe, infiltrate, and, if necessary, disappear without a trace. The mission parameters were simple on paper: reach the given coordinates, determine the source of the message, assess the potential threat or opportunity, return with information, at all costs. No one expected what they would actually find. A journey into the unknown, the Eidolon slipped past known Dominion patrol zones, navigating the labyrinth of space, where even the most advanced civilizations dared not tread. The coordinates led to a dense nebula, where scanners became unreliable, and strange energy signatures flickered like ghostly whispers. As they neared the destination, tension grew among the crew. Then, without warning, their systems shut down. The ship's power flickered, sensors scrambled, and for a moment they drifted helplessly. Then the nebula parted. Before them, an ancient space station emerged from the swirling cosmic dust. It was colossal, easily the size of a small moon, its surface covered in markings from civilizations long forgotten. Strange, unreadable symbols glowed faintly along its hull, pulsing in a rhythm that almost felt alive. Docking signals flashed. An automated message, translated through their ship's systems, echoed through the cabin. "Welcome. You are expected." A hidden force in the galaxy had just revealed itself, and humanity was about to step into a conflict far greater than they had ever imagined. The Eidolon drifted toward the ancient station, its engines running on minimal power, as Captain Elias Cade scrutinized the structure before them. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, vast, intricate, and untouched by time. The station's exterior bore no signs of battle damage, no scars from meteorite impacts or weapons fire. Yet the eerie glow of its markings suggested something far older than any known civilization. Inside the dimly lit bridge, Dr. Mira Voss hunched over her terminal, studying the pulsating symbols that ran across the station's surface. They weren't just for decoration, they were a language, an active system woven into the structure itself. "Something here is communicating," she murmured, her fingers trailing across the screen. "It's not just an automated beacon. This station is alive in some way." Lieutenant Darren Holt, the ship's security officer, adjusted his grip on his sidearm. "Alive in what way? Because I don't like the idea of stepping into something that thinks for itself." Cade exhaled sharply. He didn't like it either, but the message had been clear. They were expected. "Bring us in," he ordered. The Ship's docking thrusters engaged, maneuvering them toward an enormous hangar bay that seemed to respond to their presence. The massive doors split open without mechanical noise, revealing a cavernous interior bathed in soft golden light. As the Eidolon entered, gravity reasserted itself unnaturally fast, as though the station itself had adapted to them.